As a hypnotherapist who works with creators in growing their confidence in their arts, I noticed that the major issue they have when deciding whether they should pursue their passion is that the people around them, be it their parents, family, or friends, usually will react negatively towards their decision. As creative, we feel deeply, which is why when people react negatively towards our decision, our art, it lowers our confidence and makes us doubt ourselves. It is a major issue that we always need to solve. And so in this video, I wanted to share with you the 5 deeper reasons why people react negatively towards our decision when we decide to take a different path from the majority. If you're new here, hi, I'm Skye. I'm a hypnotherapist who work with creatives and content creators who want to overcome their fear of showing up online as their authentic selves. And on this channel, we talk about all things hypnotherapy and how to grow your confidence in your arts as a creative. Starting with reason number 1, and that is they project their fear onto you. When you tell someone that I'm going to quit my stable job and go and try something different, usually you will get responses like, the economy is so bad now. What if it doesn't work? Why would you leave something secure? That is so risky. On the surface, it might sound like they are trying to protect you from the pain or the pain that they have experienced. It sounds very rational, very practical, right? In fact, it's their nervous system that confuses risk with threat. The person might grow up in an environment where stability is survival for them. They constantly feel money anxiety. Any failure will lead to shame and any risk taken will be punished. So your decision doesn't register as growth but danger. You become a danger or threat to their nervous system, but not because your decision is wrong. You are just an uncertainty to their nervous system. And us human hates uncertainty. We are wired to avoid any kind of uncertainty. Our brain prefers a predictable, mediocre outcome over an unpredictable but potentially amazing outcome. Sometimes this projection has nothing to do with risk at all. It has to do with regrets. Someone might have once had a dream they abandoned, were talked out of, or failed at and never processed the shame. And then, seeing you pursue your dream activates that unfinished grief. So you become a mirror, a karmic mirror. And this mirror is painful because if you succeed, it forces them to confront their own incompetency, or they might think that maybe I could have achieved the success as well. If you fail, then it validates their decision to stay on the safe path. And when you don't understand this defense mechanism of theirs, you will internalize the anxiety and thought that this is your own gut feeling or your own anxiety. When it happens, it's important for you to pause so you can differentiate whether it is really your own intuition or projected fear. If it's your intuition, it is usually quiet, clear, and grounded. Whereas if it's projected fear, it feels loud, urgent, and panicky. Of course, I'm not saying that like they consciously project their fear onto you. Like no one is gonna sit there and think like, I'm going to dump my fear onto her. They genuinely believe that they are being realistic and protective towards you, but in reality, it's just emotional displacement. So, our goal is discernment. Ask yourself questions like, does this feedback feel regulated or does it feel charged? Does this person tend to take risks themselves or do they tend to avoid risk and uncertainty at all costs? The next one is the one people that don't like talking about, envy of your courage. Generally, envy might sound ugly, it might sound evil, but psychologically it's not. Envy is often an unexpressed desire. It's what happens when someone sees you embody something that they secretly wish they could access. Courage is the most triggering trait because it exposes hesitation in them. For example, I've been putting myself out here on the internet for a long time. I definitely wasn't huge, I wasn't viral, I wasn't gaining thousands of followers or subscribers at all. I just make myself visible. Some people were incredibly supportive of what I do, but some became subtly dismissive. I received comments like, oh, you are an influencer now? I could never ever put myself out there like that. I don't like attention at all. Although it wasn't said with direct hostility, I can feel that there was an edge. And what I realized later on through both my own reflection and working with clients is that visibility activates vulnerability. Showing up online or publicly has the risk of being judged. Pivoting career has the risk of failure. Pursuing the alignment with yourself has the risk of instability. So if someone desires change but is terrified of risk, my action highlights that gap and envy lives in that gap. Of course, I wouldn't say that these people 100% want you to fail. It's just that when you take action, you embody possibility, and the possibility is confronting, especially towards people who have been standing still for a long time. It reminds them of their own inaction, and it stings. So it's safer to minimize you rather than them facing the fear. Not everyone who question you is jealous, and it doesn't mean that you are superior, because envy is not about hierarchy at all. It's about access. You access a part of yourself where you are willing to act despite fear, and others haven't accessed that part yet. So the next time if you hear your friends saying that you have changed, don't get too ahead of yourself, or any kind of reaction that feels slightly sharp, slightly minimizing, slightly dismissive, rather than actively defend yourself outwardly, ask internally, is this about my worth, or is this about what my action represents? Courage doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be owned, and the more you own it quietly, the less other people's envy can destabilize you. The third one is you are pushing them out of their comfort zone because you change. Let me explain. You might be wondering, like, why am I pushing others out of their comfort zone by making a decision for myself about my life? The reason is that when you change, you don't just change your life, your career, your behavior, or your decision. You change the version of you that people feel comfortable with. You might or might not consciously notice that our brain creates identity for the people around us. We put people into different boxes that we create for them. Like, for example, she's the practical one, he's the safe one, she's not the risk taker, he would do wild stuff. Putting people into boxes helps the brain to conserve energy, so when you change dramatically, either in terms of your career, mindset, lifestyles, boundaries, confidence, or any other aspect of your life, you are forcing their brain to update these boxes. And updating requires a lot of effort, and effort creates friction. So instead of putting in the effort to update the file, sometimes people just try to restore the old version, which leads them to reacting negatively towards your changes. For example, imagine someone who has known you for 10 years, and for 10 years, you were the quiet one, the people pleaser, and the one who avoided conflict. Then suddenly, you start setting boundaries. You stop people pleasing and choose alignment over approval from others. It's an identity level change and forces others to question, like, who is this version of you? It feels so unfamiliar for them, and unfamiliarity can feel unsafe for them. And it's totally normal for you to feel emotional when you sense even subtle rejection. So you have the urge to, like, explain yourself, to soften your change, or try your best to prove that you are still the same person. When you catch yourself doing the above, pause and ask yourself, am I unsafe, or are they just unfamiliar with this version of me? I want you to remember that if someone can only love the old version of you, they are attached with familiarity and not your evolution. But a healthy relationship eventually expands and evolves to include your growth. Continue to the next one is that the old you benefited them. Sometimes people resist your growth because the old version of you work for them. And that's because every relationship operates like a system. Everyone has their own role to play in the relationship, and it creates stability. Because of this predictability, it makes the relationship easy to maintain. For example, if you were a people pleaser, they didn't have to deal with conflict. If you were the one who always doubted yourself, then they get the chance to feel wise and guide you. If you were the emotionally available one, they could always get support from you without always reciprocating. They might or might not be consciously using you, and that's for you to judge. But if you suddenly start to set boundaries, stop overgiving, stop shrinking, or stop needing any approval from them, then you are forcing them to self-regulate, share responsibility, and adapt to the changes in the relationship. Adaptation requires a lot of effort, and not everyone likes to put in the effort. You will definitely feel uncomfortable when you shake the whole system. So you feel guilty, have the urge to soften your growth, reassure and revert slightly just to restore the balance. But just because there is discomfort, it doesn't mean that the decision you make is wrong, okay? If a relationship only functions when you stay small, you might need to re-evaluate the relationship. Healthy relationship will always stretch to accommodate your evolution, but an unhealthy one requires you to shrink and stay the same. So choose your relationship wisely. The last reason will be an evolutionary factor. For thousands of years, our survival depended on whether we belong to a tribe. If you do something out of the norm and got kicked out from the tribe, you don't just feel lonely or alone. You wouldn't even survive because there's no protection, no share food, no warmth and safety for you. It is basically a life or death situation. Although thousands of years pass, but this wiring is still very alive in our system. So when you choose a different path, whether it's career, lifestyle, or belief, you are actually deviating from the group norm. And historically, deviation means risk of being kicked out from the tribe. So people react negatively when you make a different decision from the norm. They will instinctively try to pull you back when you step too far outside of the norm through questioning, doubting you, minimizing your dream, and even teasing you. It's a way of pulling you back into alignment with the group. I personally experienced this before where I had a group of friends that bonded over complaining about our jobs. Whenever we meet, 80% of the time, it will be the same topic over and over and over again. When I start pursuing something that's more aligned with myself, automatically I don't have much to complain about. At that moment, I can feel a little shift in the relationship. The people in the group will try to interrogate and question every aspect of my new job to find out if there is anything that I'm unhappy about so that I can join their complaining. The important thing to remember is that we are no longer restricted geographically anymore. We don't need to live in a small survival tribes. We can always go around and find an aligned community. So if one group resists your changes and evolution, you can always go and find another group and you don't need to be alone in this journey. If there's one thing I want you to take from this video, it's this. When people resist your growth, it doesn't automatically means that you are wrong. Sometimes it means that you are changing, and change disrupts systems, expectation, roles, and identities. Yes, some people may misunderstand you. Yes, some relationship may shift. Yes, you may outgrow certain dynamics, but the cost of staying the old you forever is much heavier. That's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, do like and subscribe to my channel. And thank you so much for watching this video and have a great day ahead.